The Hunter Witch keeps devouring everything in her path, growing bigger and stronger until she can finally move on her own. Meanwhile, Finn is still in critical condition, so fragile that Simon and Princess Bubblegum have no choice but to turn to far more drastic measures to save him. The episode opens with a story. It tells of an old hunter and his wife who lived deep in the forest. Their greatest wish was to have a family. One day, while the hunter was out tracking prey, he witnessed a strange creature absorbing the rabbit he'd just caught. But instead of hurting the creature wandering near his land, he brought it home. To most people, it would have looked like a monster, but to that couple, it became their baby. Time passed, and the creature grew both in size and in skill. Her father taught her to hunt, and she even adopted the same feeding habits as her parents. Everything seemed peaceful, until one stormy night, lightning struck the hunter's home. The father managed to get his daughter to safety, but when he rushed back for his wife, the house was already in flames, ending both of their lives. With no other choice, the young hunter buried her parents and continued on her journey alone. Back in Fiona's world, Gary and Marshall head to the grocery store to buy a massive amount of flour Gary needs for his pastries. The problem? The price. Marshall suggests changing the recipe if the money won't cover it, but for Gary that's unthinkable, like asking Marshall to change his music. Ironically, Marshall is planning to tweak a few things for his next show. Suddenly, Marshall gets a call from an unknown number. When he picks up, he realizes it's his mom, who immediately downplays his achievements and those of his friends while offering her help. Tired of the same old routine, Marshall pretends the signal's bad and hangs up. Gary keeps choosing ingredients, while Marshall accidentally bumps into a girl who instantly catches his attention, though he doesn't say a word to her. Gary comments that Fiona's plan has to work. He's never seen her so determined, and he truly believes she'll pull off the fundraiser. Meanwhile, Fiona is sprawled out on the floor after a very rough night. That's when she gets a call from Hunter. He managed to get her an appointment with the Parks Department, and she needs to show up at 5 p.m. to get official approval for her event. Even feeling like a wreck, Fiona forces herself into the shower. She needs to get moving, organize everything, promote the event. While she gets ready, she hears a radio report about DJ Flame's wildly successful show. They mention he's a master of public relations, and his rise isn't up for debate. That's when it hits her. She needs DJ Flame at her event if she wants to draw in as many people as possible. Even though they're no longer together and she doesn't have his number anymore, she knows exactly where to find him. She promises herself that from now on, whatever happens between them will be strictly professional. Back in OU, Princess Bubblegum uses the Enchiridion to open a portal straight to the time room, the very center of the multiverse. Prismo is thrilled to see them, Scarab, not so much, and Simon isn't exactly happy about the welcome either. PB explains to Prismo that they need to make a wish to save Finn, who's in critical condition. To get Scarab out of the way, Prismo casually mentions that the time core is off sync by a few milliseconds and asks him to check it out. He just wants a moment alone. Once Scarab leaves, Prismo confesses he's been having trouble granting wishes and shows them that he no longer has his magic. But before he can say more, Scarab comes back, forcing Prismo to send them away immediately before anything gets exposed. Back with Fiona, Cake arrives at her apartment because she got a message from her, but finds no one there. That's when she receives a call from a talent coordinator at Cheers. They reviewed her photos and resume and want to hire her for a special appearance on the show. Cake says yes on the spot, thrilled by the idea that with that money she might be the one to save Sweet Point. Meanwhile, the Hunter Witch, who survived hidden inside Fiona's home, faces a new threat, a snail trying to eat her. When it gets close enough, she bursts free from the soil, kicks it aside, and absorbs its life force, growing even stronger. Now she needs more food if she wants her development to be complete. Out on the streets, Fiona walks around looking for the apartment where Felix used to live. She also remembers the night they spent together, but the problem is that the place is now nothing but a wreck. She thinks about her old job at the record store, work she genuinely misses, and just like everything else, it's gone. The store is abandoned and falling apart. Another memory hits her, the time she worked at a carnival. Her boss fired her for handing out too many prizes, and Felix overheard her venting about how unfair everything was and how the games were rigged so kids almost never won. Trying to cheer her up, Felix took her to the Ferris wheel. Fiona didn't want to get on at first, but once they reached the top, she couldn't help appreciating the view. That was the moment Felix properly introduced himself to her. Basically, that's when they truly met. In the middle of those memories, Hunter shows up alongside Felix's current girlfriend. She's polite and compliments Fiona's cardigan, but the tiny spark of jealousy is impossible to miss. Fennel mentions that she wanted to ride the Ferris wheel with Hunter, since it's something she usually did with Felix. Hunter quickly cuts through the awkwardness and asks Fiona if she's ready for the Parks Department meeting. Fiona snaps back to reality and runs off to get ready. Meanwhile, Cake looks up the address for the recording studio. When she arrives, the recruiter is already waiting. His assistant hands her a small script so she can rehearse her lines, and a few minutes later they introduce her to the cast she'll be working with. When Fiona gets home, she focuses herself, no more distractions, no more lingering memories. She needs to put together an incredible event and nothing can get in her way. But then she notices something disturbing, several dead, skinless rodents. That's when the Hunter Witch appears, searching for food to keep growing. Instead of panicking, Fiona feels sorry for her and offers her a sandwich. The little witch absorbs the nutrients and grows just a bit more. Then she tries to escape. Outside, she almost gets eaten by a dog. Fiona arrives just in time to save her, though the tiny creature still refuses to stay with her. Taking a huge risk, she attempts to cross the street and nearly gets run over. Fiona rescues her again. This time, exhausted and starving, the Hunter Witch collapses in her arms. Fiona promises she'll make sure she's fed properly. Back in O, Simon pays a visit he'd rather avoid. He goes to see the new Ice King, Gunter, to ask for the demonic wishing eye so he can save Finn. The Ice King is willing to give it to him, but on one condition: Simon has to watch him play the drums. Meanwhile, Fiona calls Cake to tell her what she found in her apartment and asks to meet up. But Cake is busy. Her recording session is about to begin. The show is live, and Cake has to deliver lines she never managed to memorize. As the program goes on, she realizes the entire script is making fun of her shape-shifting abilities. It gets under her skin. Cake snaps at the cast and at the live audience watching the show. She transforms into a giant creature, tosses the whole cast off the set, and because of their tiny size, she briefly mistakes them for rodents and almost eats one. With the audience booing and the production team yelling, Cake bolts from the studio. Fiona makes a quick stop at the grocery store to buy meat for the Hunter Witch, but the moment they walk in, the creature starts devouring every piece of meat in the display. And since there's plenty, she grows fast, big enough to move on her own again. Following the sign she saw in her dream, the route she was supposed to chase, she finally understands it's pointing her toward the heart of the forest. That's the path back home. The Hunter Witch bolts out of the store and sprints straight toward the park. Cake, who is just arriving, joins Fiona to try to catch up with her. Fiona calls her the plant girl and asks what she's looking for. The Hunter Witch simply answers that she wants to find a way back to O. Hearing that, Fiona immediately offers to help and calls Simon. She tells him she's with a plant-like girl, and the moment he hears it, Simon realizes exactly who she is. The Hunter Witch grabs Fiona's phone and talks to Simon directly. She asks about Finn's condition, still critical but stable. Simon wants to know if she found a cure, the very cure she once had and lost. But the Hunter Witch only asks for more time and refuses to reveal what's actually killing Finn. Princess Bubblegum grows frustrated with her secrecy. Annoyed, the Hunter Witch drops Fiona's phone and ends the call. A moment later, she loses her footing and falls from the tree she had climbed. But thankfully, Cake catches her just in time. Back on the street, Fiona runs into Felix, who's out for a jog. She takes the chance to invite him for coffee, wanting to make him a big proposal for her event. Felix agrees and gives her a hug, something Cake absolutely hates since she's still angry at him. Not long after, Hunter calls Fiona. She never showed up to the meeting with the Parks Department. Fiona apologizes and explains everything spiraled out of control. Hunter, clearly disappointed, tells her they'll talk later. He made several sacrifices to secure that appointment, and she didn't come. When Fiona finally gets back to her apartment, her key doesn't work. That's when she remembers she forgot to pay the rent, and there's now an eviction notice taped to her door. And that sits where the episode ends.